Alright buddy, this video is on the just basically the maintenance of your gun. You only have to do this every so often. I really only do certain things to my gun every, like a couple times a year, but it'll keep it in good working order. Before I start, one thing I forgot to mention. So when you go to play, you need to adjust the velocity sometimes. So you have to get chronoed when you shoot. So this little thing over here, there's an Allen key in your bag that'll adjust. If you turn it counterclockwise, it makes the velocity faster. If you turn it clockwise, it'll slow it down. Usually if you go to a field, people usually will chrono the gun for you. So they'll take care of it, but if you want to be able to do it on your own, so just stick the Allen key in here, you adjust it here, you take a shot, and you don't have to turn it that much. If you turn it a quarter turn, that's a lot. So the old guns, they needed a lot more turning, but this you just adjust a tiny bit at a time, take a shot, see what your velocity is, and that'll give you what you're shooting at. All right. So couple of things. First of all, the battery. If you ever need to replace the battery is in the front grip. You just take the Allen key, you just open this area up, and there's a couple of push tabs here. You're just going to push it, and the grip will actually slide right off. Okay. These are called the eyes. I don't know why they really call them eyes. It's a little bit of light thing that somehow tells when the gun is shooting or doing whatever. If you usually don't ever have to mess with them, I usually don't. But sometimes if you break paint in the gun, which is very rare, these things shoot very well. But if you do, sometimes you have to unscrew these. You take them off. What you just have to watch out for is you can't really see it in there, but there's a little like nub. If you stuck your finger in there, you'd feel it. It's like a light little nub all the way down in there. And those are called the detents. So if you ever take the eye off, make sure those little rubber nubs stay with it, because what they do is when the ball comes down into the barrel, into the chamber from the feed, those little rubber nubs just hold the ball there until it gets fired out. If you're missing the nubs, what happens is the feed is going to feed balls down there, and there's nothing to stop the balls from coming out till they get shot. So you'll start feeding multiple balls down there, and they'll break all over the place. Like I said, not usually a major thing that you'd have to ever take these off, but just in case. All right. Next, this is an upgrade from the Etha 2. You have your core, which is something that you have to service every so often. I usually do it if I play every couple of weeks, then every couple of weekends, usually every month or definitely 2 months, I'll just change it. And it's not much. All you have to do is, so what happens is this pushes up, your core pops out. All right. This is really like the essence of what makes the gun work so well. Air comes in through the gun, and it operates at about 130 pounds of pressure. But this is your core. So basically what this is with everything is you have these little rubber O-rings all around the gun. And it comes factory grease. This thing was like greased like a monster. So I actually kind of cleaned it up for you because it was just grease everywhere. But the thing is the O-rings control the seals and how well the seals go. If the O-rings go bad, you usually start hearing leaking in the gun, which is not a great thing. At first, right out of the factory, you don't have to worry about it. You can usually go a while, but you want to keep them greased so they stay lubed. Your gun comes with a package of grease. It's a little tiny tube, and it also comes with extra O-rings. So in case you ever break them or bust them, there's a whole package of extra ones in there. All right. So I'm just going to show you how to disassemble this thing real quick. It's not that complicated, and like I said, you only want to do it but every so often. So the first thing that happens is you're going to unscrew this top part here. All right. So you'll have this. You're going to unscrew it. This is what's underneath. There's a little sort of slide mechanism in there, and there's an O-ring here. There's an O-ring here, and all you'll do is you're going to rub any excess grease off the cylinder, and you're going to take a little bead. You're not like greasing it like you're like trying to like make like a slip and slide or anything. You just take a little bead of it and you put it around the ring, and then just make sure it comes in and out, and then you can do the same with the outer ring, just a light little bit of grease. Okay, so that's for the outer portion. This guy is a little more tricky, but not horrible. there is on it, you can see like this little flat section here. So what you need is you need a wrench to open it. And what I usually do is I take like a rag because I don't want to scratch that whole thing up. And this was tightened down pretty good when I did it the first time to open it up for you, but now it should be easier. You just take it and you start to unscrew it, all right? And you'll see there's a bunch of O-rings on it. There's one here, there's one here, there's one here, there's one here. And you're gonna take it apart real gently because there's a spring down here in the bottom. You see it popped, right? And you're just gonna kind of pull it out, okay? You can see the spring, all right? In the bottom, there's a little piston that the spring fits into. So make sure you don't lose those parts, all right? So when you take this thing apart, take it apart gently. Like I said, a little spring in the bottom and a little piston. And the piston sits in a little well. So you just want to take it, like I said, you'll just pull this out. You'll just kind of clean it off real good, just in case it gets dusty or dirty. The little red portion down here, you can see in there, you'll kind of clean that, and you'll put a little tiny bit of grease around each one of those O-rings, okay? And then all you're gonna do is you're just gonna push it back together and screw it together, okay? So you'll sit there and screw it together, just hand tighten it a little bit, and then just don't go crazy with it because you gotta get it apart, and these things are gentle, so just give it a little turn with the rag just to make sure it's tight in there, all right? And then we take our top piece and we put it back on, like so, and just screw it in, just hand tighten that part. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything crazy with this, all right? And then you just take it, so you can see right through the gun because this is where your core, this is where all the air pushes the paintball. So you're just gonna slide it in like this, and then you just push the slide down so it locks in, all right? The one other thing you're probably going to do a maintenance on, I really only do it like once a year, is actually on the ASA itself. In your manual, you'll see it'll show you, like, you can even do like other YouTube videos where you unscrew these two guys and the ASA will come off. You got to be careful because what there is when you take it apart, make sure you're paying attention. There's like a little tiny like a piston and spring in there, and it has a ring on it too. So when you pull this apart, the little piston will kind of start to come out a little bit with the spring. Make sure when you put it back together, you put it back together in the same exact way, because if you put it upside down, it's not going to go right. So, and all you got to do is you just grease the ring in there and put it back together, okay? So, like I said, I really only do that part like once a season. But the gamma core, which is more important, I do every so often. Usually, like I said, if I'm feeling real good about it, once a month. If not, I'll do it every couple. If you're only playing a couple times a season, say you're only playing 4 or 5 times a season, you only have to do it at the end of each season. Just make sure it's nice and greased. Like I said, you want those O-rings to stay good because if they go bad, the gun starts leaking. All right, so before, when we turned it on, I had you hold it on, right? And then, so normally when your gun was ready to go, it had that redness to it, right? So it had that blue light, because when everything was hooked up, if there's no balls coming into the feed, it'll have a different color. It won't show right. It'll have a different blinking color because it says there's nothing in the chamber. So here's the thing. This gun comes factory set at semi-automatic, meaning you dance on the trigger and it'll shoot as fast as you can dance on the trigger. But if you ever want to play speedball, odds are you're going to probably want to play with that ramping mode, which is kind of like that fully automatic mode that we talked about that time. So the way fully auto works is you set the gun so that if you pull the trigger 3 times in a second, it'll shoot a little over 10 rounds a second. So if I keep doing this, it'll go and it'll keep shooting. So you go through a lot of paint when you do that. But when you're playing speedball, you need usually a higher rate of fire because you're playing against people that are. And all you have to do is just keep pulling the trigger 3 times a second, and it'll just keep spitting things out. All right, so now you want to know how you set your gun to that. Okay, so like I said, normally you would just turn it on, you push the button till it comes on, it'll look blue. When you're gonna do the set for the NXL or PSP or the ramping mode, what you're gonna do is you're gonna pull the trigger and press the button. And then all of a sudden, the gun will come on, okay? So you saw it blinked white, and then all of a sudden there's this red mark, right? So a solid red means it's set for semi-automatic, okay? So that means this is what it's set for. If you want to change it to ramping, where you're shooting, pulling 3 times, you're pulling the trigger 3 times in a second and you're shooting fully auto, what you're going to do from here is you're just going to, and this is important, there's a factory reset in case you screw this whole thing up, which you can YouTube, but it's a little awkward. I'd prefer you not have to go through it. So if you want to set it for ramping from semi-auto, all you do from this, the full auto, is you push this for a second. Hold on, sorry. I'm going to turn it off for a second. I'm going to turn it on just to make sure I got it right. So I'm pulling the trigger. I'm going to turn it on, white, and then red, right? Okay, so I'm just going to push this for a second, and then, oh, see how it went through the different colors? All right, this is, when you do that, if you're going through the different colors like this, don't mess with the other colors. You go back to red. So you just pull the trigger, it goes green, blue, purple, light blue, go back to red. You're gonna push this for 1 second. Sorry, buddy, I gotta get through this one more time. It's a little bit fickle sometimes, that's the one thing about it. So pull the trigger, push the button, it's on. Now you're red. Pull this for 1 second, all right? And it should be, I don't know why it's on this, it should be blinking red. Push the button. All right, here we go. So here's what we did. I just turn it off for a second. All right, so I wish I could show you this a little easier. So you're gonna pull the trigger, turn the gun on, blinks white, goes to red. Push this button for a second. I have to mess it up again. Sorry, buddy. Pull the trigger, push the button, light it up. Just push it for a second. And then if you just click the trigger, it's just for a second. So then you do that, you pull the trigger a couple of times, and then what you do is you lock it in like that. So now I push the button again to lock it in. So if I push it, so see how it's blinking 3 times? That's ramping. So if I want to get rid of ramping, I push the button for a second, click on it, lock it in. The green means it's locked in. So now if I push it again, it's only blinking once. So I push it for a second, push it, and lock it in. The green means it's locked in. So now, it's basically locked into that, okay? So that's how you do it. Like I said, it's a little more complicated with this gun because you have to go by the blinks. 3 blinks is auto. A solid red is you're on your semi-auto, where you just pull the trigger and you just drum on it. All right. Like I said, you probably won't have to mess with this too much. It's just a matter of if you're gonna play speedball or not. All right, buddy. So listen, enjoy it. It's an awesome gun. All right. Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon.